Brown University, great school. Great, really one of the greatest schools anywhere in the world. Things can happen. So to the 9 injured, get well fast. And to the families of those 2 that are no longer with us, I pay my deepest regards and respects from the United States of America.
Okay, that ended, I guess, okay. It was delivered like 1,000 times with less energy than if you were talking about the new marble in the Lincoln bathroom or anything, but it almost sounded presidential. Eventually, things can happen. It's great school, but things can happen. Soaring rhetoric. I feel like I was living under Obama again for a second there. Things can happen. And he's like, they wrote on a piece of paper, like, could you at least acknowledge the Brown shooting or something? Could you do that? And he's like, Brown, good school, great school. One of the best schools, everybody knows one of the best. People just died, man. That has nothing to do with anything, but that's what you get. At the least, he didn't say that the kids died from Trump derangement syndrome, so I suppose it could and has been recently much worse. But anyway, this is how he reacts to stuff, you know? It makes us all worse. It makes me not want to be a part of this country. It certainly makes me not want to follow the news, but that's what he does. At least that's what he says. But what about like action? What can you do? Now, I said earlier on the show in a different clip that because this is just a school shooting, they're not going to do literally anything. They don't care unless they think they can get something out of it. So if it's just a regular shooting, you just pray, whatever. Even if it's somebody on their side, like Charlie Kirk tragically assassinated, I can't really get anything out of that guy. He doesn't have the right identity, so we just pray or whatever. Now, if they think they can get something, then they will. Like after the National Guard shooting in DC, he said, we must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden. And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from our country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. That's grotesque. Here's an idea. How about, when there's like a mass shooting like this, how about we do an additional background check of everyone with an assault weapon? I mean, that's a lot. That seems like a lot of work, but you were fine doing it when it was targeting a refugee. I mean, if it could save lives. How about this? How about we look into everybody who has bought a gun in the last 5 years and just check if they're adding benefit to America. And if not, then we take the gun away or whatever. Like you'll take bold moves to protect people if you can down on an immigrant. But for some reason, when it's just one of us who did it again, even though it's one of us 98% of the time, suddenly you don't care. Okay, but honestly, that right there isn't even the worst reaction to a mass shooting. That has to do with the attack in Australia, and that's gonna go, weirdly enough, to Benjamin Netanyahu. Take a look.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of Australia a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism in Australia. I wrote, your call for a Palestinian state pours full fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. You took no action, you let the disease spread, and the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
That is Benjamin Netanyahu saying that because Australia acknowledged or called for a Palestinian state, this terror attack happened. It was because of that. It was because of those politicians that did that. Absolute madness. I mean, I can't think of literally anyone in the world who's less well positioned to talk at all about anti-Semitism than Benjamin Netanyahu. He links every single thing in the world to it. This actually is anti-Semitism. Violent and horrific violence targeting Jewish people celebrating Hanukkah. But when he says that literally anyone who said, hey, maybe we could murder less Palestinian kids, you're anti-Semitic. Well, then I don't know. It all sounds the same to me coming out of Benjamin Netanyahu. So I think it would be great for everybody who wants to stop this sort of thing from happening again in the future. It would be wonderful if Benjamin Netanyahu could shut the hell up, because you have disqualified yourself from any conversation around this with how utterly irresponsibly and selfishly and conspiratorially you've thrown that term around where it doesn't actually belong. Now we're experiencing the actual violence. And by the way, also, Maybe he doesn't even know. I don't know how much he actually cares. Pretending that Australia, what hasn't been supportive of Israel, they did $20 million in missiles, okay, from an Israeli arms company. So they're linked, and also acknowledge. So I love that acknowledging a Palestinian state, that it should exist, inspires violence around the world against Jewish people. But if they weren't to do that, that doesn't inspire violence against Palestinians or Muslims generally. Of course, that's utterly illogical, but Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't care because in his mind, one of these groups is humans and the other is whatever. Dogs, animals, insects, I don't care what happens to them. Do you see how many I'm murdering on a daily basis? And so again, amongst JR, amongst all of this violence already, I feel bad inflicting on our audience this sort of perspective, but these are the people that are actually in power. These are the people who have influence to affect these sorts of things. What do you think?
Well, this a lot of time is their motivation for being in power. So when you have a supremacist mindset like these guys have, everything is connected to that. And everything that's connected to that makes you the victim, and then also makes you want to couch that whole situation in terms that will continue to further your propaganda. It's all you can think about. It's like an obsession. It's really all that happens. So similarly, like when Donald Trump sees something happen and he has to connect it to it, he just didn't have an angle on this. Benjamin Netanyahu did. We see Donald Trump do it. He did it with Rob Reiner. He had an angle on it to self-aggrandize himself rather than talk about it or not say anything at all. It's free to shut the hell up, back on our family-oriented program. But in doing that, you see how Trump responded. I want to go back to what he responded to as far as even the Brown shooting, because there's the flippant nature of how much they don't care about anything. So we've gone to things can happen. Before, the conversations were always about why you guys keep saying thoughts and prayers, because that was a fake, let's act like we care type of phrase that you toss out so that people won't say, why do you not care about this? We've crossed over into, I don't have to even come off looking like I care. I don't have to pretend anymore. All I have to do is say things happen, F you, you're not the right type of person. I don't care if you die. That's where we are. That's how normalization works. That's why anytime anyone has talked about how we're marching towards this authoritarianism and this lack of humanity and how we treat other humans and killing and bombing them, and we watch children be killed, dismantled on camera for the past several years, when we see stuff like that happen and then we go further to shrugging our shoulders, it eventually gets to the point where the masks can completely come off, and Donald Trump is happy to be there because the mask has never been on with him. And somehow he's flown under the radar, and now he's like, yo, I can be my true self, which I've always been. Things can happen. That's the new thoughts and prayers. Things can happen, and if I can benefit from it, then I'll talk about how much those victims, those actual victims, are enemies of mine, and therefore you should hate them too. That's where we are.
And also, like, if you're MAGA, like, pay attention. Like, thoughts and prayers is how someone who at least needs to pretend to be religious stops anything from happening in the wake of these things. But Trump's mind doesn't even go there because he didn't give a damn about that stuff. He's not interested. Religion, the Bible, Jesus. That's what Trump is thinking of in these moments. No, he doesn't care. So it's things happen. That's thoughts and prayers stripped of even the veneer of some sort of religious sentiment, because Donald Trump doesn't believe in even the veneer.